Welcome to an episode of The Diplomats, a special episode covering the DBNI. We've already done two of Umble's games where he qualified for the Super 7 and the number 3 seed. We've looked at one of my games where I had a really nice 4-way board top with 50 points coming into round 2. Now we're going to see if I pulled it out and made the Super 7 of the DBNI. But before we do that, and before I can see you're dying with anticipation, I'd like to thank Umble for coming on and our sponsor, diplomacybriefing.com. Umble, talk to us about Diplomacy Briefing.
Yes, good to be here. Diplomacy Briefing is the way to stay connected to everything happening in the community. We will let you know everything that's happening on all the different platforms. Also in the face-to-face and virtual scene. We include a strategy article every single week. In fact, this upcoming week will be the champion of the DBNI. And he's going to be writing a great article for us. But yeah, it's free. You go to diplomacybriefing.com and you'll get a weekly email every single, of course, week. But it has also, we can do stuff like new variants. Basically, anything that is interesting for the diplomacy community will be found there. So sign up.
Thank you, Umble. All right, so no big surprise. Umble, you've written for this episode's briefing what do we call it? The runner-ups corner.
It's second fiddle.
The second fiddle. Is the first fiddle going to get to write, or is it just second place?
Yeah. No. The first, his article's coming out this for this upcoming edition. It was just he needed a little more time to do it. So. Yeah, the Champions Corner. Yeah, Champions Corner will be this Friday.
All right. Well, look forward to reading that, and it's become indispensable in the diplomacy hobby. I got to tell you about this game, Umble. You can hear me sort of just like equivocating. I did not make the Super 7, and in fact, of all the virtual face-to-face games I've been playing since DixieCon in May of 2020. This is the very first game I involuntarily was eliminated from the game. I only have been eliminated one time. I don't think you've ever been eliminated in virtual face-to-face, but I'm not used to being in the situation.
Yeah, there's been one. I was Italy and Austria attacked me in 1902. So I invited France in and held off as long as I could. And the comeuppance I got is that both Austria and Turkey got eliminated also. So, but yes, I've been one. It's always disappointing. And for me, I was, it kept me from getting to the final board by just a little bit.
Yeah, well, okay. So the strategy here was really simple. I explained it on the last podcast, which was I wanted to be in the mix, but I didn't want to I was very concerned how game 4 would play out on DBNI. Everyone knew everyone's scores, and I would know exactly the points I needed. I had speculated that I would need 110 points, which means I needed 60 points in this game to advance to the Super 7. So very much on my mind was I needed a good second place to do that, or a board top. And I knew a lot of people had to have a really high board top. And I wanted to make myself a marketable quantity for my diplomacy. Yeah. So I find myself surrounded by 3 people here. I played Germany.
It is a dangerous strategy, though, right? Because the strategy of in your last round having to definitely make it can be dangerous because, at least I'll tell you for me, I found it was great going into the second game, not having that burden and being able to play that off diplomatically. So I wasn't like the competitor.
Yeah. In hindsight, you're right. I just had given this a lot of thought beforehand and it just didn't play out the way I thought it would. It went off badly from the get-go. I put all my points. I had everything remaining. I knew I could get the country of my choice, except for Tanya. And I didn't know if she had put all her chips in your game or a lot of them on England. I knew she liked to play Germany and France. I know she likes to be in the West as well as Austria. So I actually thought I would probably be, I could get any country I wanted, and I would, and Tanya probably would not be on my board. I put all my chips on Germany, which is, if you look at my statistics, but far and away, Germany and Austria are my two best countries. I am very happy with Germany. I like playing the Central Power. I think I know how to play it at a decent level, and I like being on the stalemate line. And so I got my choice, but Tanya got France. I came later to learn that she put all her chips on France. She didn't put a lot of chips on England in your game too, but she got England. And so, here I am with Germany next to Tanya, and I like Tanya a lot. I've played with her twice. Both times I think we had a good relationship. One game I did well, the other game she did well in both, but I board topped one, she board topped the other. And I thought, oh, okay, I can work with Tanya, but she had 0 points. So I knew she was going to swing for the fences. I've had Farron, who for the most part I have good relationships with, sometimes back and forth, but she had 0 points. And then I had Craig Mayer's Russia, who had 0 points, and I had just eliminated him from the last game. And then just sort of going further, Jason Massbaum, who I had just insulted literally an hour before the game, saying he wouldn't get a chance to play a second game and he should reduce his score. And I had just eliminated Jason Massbaum at Cascadia when he was Austria and I was Germany. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah. So much of this comes down to, who you're by, right? And, you can play the best game possible, but if you get next to people that just want to ally against you, I mean, it's going to be a long game. Now, you can still come out, but you're not going to just have, you're not going to just shoot out of the gate rolling. So
right.
Yeah, that had to be a little nervous starting out.
That's frustrating. And then, of course, the other thing that happened is, this. I spent a lot of time looking at how everybody played every power before the tournament. And I knew Farron is a big EF fan. But Tanya has a lot of FGs under her pocket, including a board top as Germany and VDL top board. So my initial thought was I need to work with Tanya. I've worked with her before really well. And so, okay, great.
So what do you offer?
Well, I don't get a chance to offer. This is problem number one. Brandon, the tournament director, said, okay, you may begin negotiations. And I don't know if you can have a time period shorter than like a millisecond that's calculable to the human ear. But Farron goes, Tanya, can we talk? And Tanya goes, sure. And then AI went and talked, and RT went and talked. And I'm all alone.
That's especially hard if you're Ed Sullivan.
It's very hard because I have to tell you, this is probably not going to be a surprise to you. Usually I'm the person reached out. I usually don't ask to talk to anybody. Normally people want to come talk to me first. And I'm cool. And I never have this problem of no one wants to talk to me. And I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I wasn't feeling lonely or anything. And we have 15 minutes to negotiate, and I had a timer. 5 minutes have gone by, and everyone's still in their separate rooms. And I figure at this point, well, why don't I just poke my head in the EF room to see how it's going? And I said, hey, I'd like to talk to actually both of you. So, when you get a second, let me know. And they go, okay, sure. And I went back to my room. 6 minutes passes, 7 minutes passes, 8 minutes passes, 9 minutes passes, 10 minutes passes.
What do they have to talk about for that long in spring 1901? I mean, it's just like, I don't get it.
So I'm pretty pessimistic at this point. And then I go back and interrupt, and Tanya goes, yeah, we're done, Ed, I'll come talk to you. And it almost felt like, it was a pity talk at that point. But
that surprises me because Tanya, that surprises me on Tanya because even if she just from the get-go decided to attack you, you still don't want you to think that, right?
So she came in, she was very nice, and it didn't feel forced or anything like that. And she's so smooth, right? She's so talkable, and I'm like, Tanya, I saw you in there for a really long time. Not that I'm worried, but maybe I can make my pitch before you decide to do an EF. And she's like, oh, no, no, no. She goes, I had stabbed Farron really badly in a game before, and I had to spend a lot of time with her telling her that, it wasn't personal and, all the rest of it. And I actually knew that she had stabbed Farron. I had seen that game in preparation, but I'm like, oh, okay. And I go, okay, Tanya, let me make my pitch to you. My pitch is really simple. You have 0, Farron has 0. 110 is going to make it through. It's impossible for both you and Farron to get 110, even if you tie 17-17 under the scoring system. I had checked that out. I said, but what you need is a strong person who has not invested in the board top, who is basically not a stab freak, isn't going to be looking, doesn't have motivation to stab, and is happy for you to go up on the center count. So you can be first, I can be a strong second, we can resolve our side and take over. And
that's a good pitch.
Pardon?
That's a good pitch.
And that's what she said. She goes, oh man, I know why you're a good lawyer. She goes, that is a great pitch. She goes, I really, really like what I'm hearing.
Did you offer her Belgium?
Oh yeah. I was like, yeah, take Belgium. I go, have it all. What do you want me to do? And she's like, well, I'm just going to open up, standard, which for me is a supported move into Burgundy, and go to Mid-Atlantic. I go, fine. I go, I'm not bouncing Burgundy, but you can go to Burgundy. I said, I'll go to Ruhr to make sure you get Belgium. And she's like, well, I don't really want Belgium.
That's concerning.
Okay. And I said, do you want Farron to have Belgium? And she's like, I'm not saying that. She goes, I'm just saying I don't want to jump up so quick. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I go, look, whoever gets Belgium, if we keep England out, I'm more than happy to give you Belgium. She's like, great. I talked to Farron, that conversation took 3 minutes. By now I have like 2 minutes left. So my conversation with Farron is very abbreviated. And I was like, Farron, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you talked in there with Tanya for like a really long time. And you asked to talk to Tanya. I go, so I'm a little nervous. And she's like, no, nothing to be nervous about. And my pitch to her was exactly the same as what I told Tanya, except I'm like, do you really think Tanya's not going to stab you? Like, do you really think that I go, you're going to make it through this game without her looking for an angle on you? She goes, no. I'm like, it makes no sense, right? Like, I think allying with her is a bad idea. And I'm not convinced Tanya will ally with me. And, I need a good ally that I, can trust. And she's like, okay.
Well, you probably shouldn't have said that.
Pardon?
You probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Because you're giving her the power then to choose, right?
Yeah, that's that. I guess I did that. She goes, well, Tanya really wants to do a Western triple, which did not come up at all in my conversation with Tanya. And I go, well, you can tell Tanya, and I'll announce it to the world, I'm not Western tripling. Like, I go, and I didn't take it bad because I kind of figured Tanya might be playing fair enough by saying that a little bit, so I had some hope at that point. But I didn't even have a chance to talk to Russia except for a second. And I just said, I'm inclined not to bounce you into Sweden. And I go, Craig, Craig was like, I really want to work together. And I said, me too. And, hope no hard feelings from the last game. And he's like, no hard feelings. And maybe I shouldn't have said that either. But he was Turkey. I mean, what does he expect in the modern meta?
Right.
So,
right.
Here we go. Okay. So
a good Go Horns, I would say a good Go Horns line there is, you know what? I feel bad about what happened there to Turkey. Let me make it up to you this game. That sounds to me exactly like what you would say.
Right. And I told him, I said, I'm inclined to let you have Sweden. I'm always inclined to let you have Sweden. And at this point, I'm thinking England is definitely against me. So.
What's interesting? I wonder if Tanya even said Western triple. I wonder if that was just Farron's line to try to separate you. I don't know what kind of player Farron is because she was on the opposite side of the board. So I've never really played a real game with her, but when in the finals. So I don't know if she likes to kind of divide people that way. It seems a strange thing for Tanya to say, though she might have.
Okay, so the moves happen, and now it's sort of like deja vu. As soon as the move happens, Farron grabs Tanya. I mean, I can't even get a word out, right? They go in to talk to each other. Meanwhile, Russia comes in, and I'm like, "Gonna have Sweden, man." Like, I go, "Come check with me at the end just to make sure." I go, "But like right now, I see no reason not to let you into Sweden. So just go for it." And I think there's an RT going, and I don't even care
Right.
at this point. I'm like, okay. So
So you probably want Russia strong if an EF is coming, and you want to try to get Italy to go west. That's probably the other thing.
Yeah, and Andre and Jason Mashbaum, they were talking the whole time. I knew there was a strong AI.
I don't get that. Like you, even if you're going to go all in, you've got to be talking with everyone, and you've got to be spending time. Like, sure, spend some real time with your ally, but you've got to be making the rounds because you never know what's going to happen and what opportunities will arise. I don't understand that.
I mean, I'm going in asking to talk to people, and they're treating me like the little, dog that they're patting on the head that they don't have time for. And, I've done that to other people. So I get it. And now the shoe's on the other foot, and I don't like it. I remember when Sergey talked about that, right? When he got eliminated in a game, and this is the way I felt, right? I'm like, oh my God, nobody wants to talk to me. This is really going badly. And finally, Tanya comes into my room, and I'm like, Tanya, I'm in Ruhr. Everything I said before, I'm maintaining my position. I go, take Belgium. I will put you into Belgium right now. And she's like, well, I'm just I'll move to Belgium. And Farron said she's moving to Belgium, so it'll bounce. She goes, so you can support either one of us in.
That sounds weird.
And I was like, okay. I go, well, I'd like to support you in. And then she backtracks and goes, well, I'm not saying I really want it.
You should have supported her anyway.
And I was like, okay.
You just do it anyway and then play it off with Farron. But I don't know if she actually moves. Like, I don't know what the next moves are. So
yeah,
I don't think she'd go to Munich. I don't think that's her play, but maybe she supports Farron in.
Yeah. Well, and then Farron was like talking to me, and then she was like, will you support me into Belgium? Because we're going to bounce if I don't. And I was like,
that's probably the move to do.
And I was like, okay, I'll support York to Belgium.
Yeah, Farron's the one to do probably in this because, well, I don't know. That's hard to say. Probably no, Tanya's the one to do. If you think they're happening, Farron's probably going to take it worse than Tanya will because Tanya really kind of wants her there, right?
Correct. Tanya wants her there, but she goes, I'm putting the fleet in. I don't want you to support the army. I'm like, you're putting the fleet in? And she's
well, that's
like,
good for you.
Yeah. I go, yeah, but I mean, it was bizarre. And I go, okay, I'll support you in. And she goes, okay.
That sounds weird.
I'd
probably put Tanya in.
Well, at this point, I don't know what's happening, right? And and the only thing I can come up with is, why am I giving either one of these people a build? Tanya didn't even want support into Belgium. Farron does. Like,
well, you got to split them apart. That's why.
This is,
And maybe you get Italy to go west by letting Tanya get a little stronger.
Yeah. Well, at this point, right, like Tanya was so insistent that she didn't want Belgium that and even Tanya sort of hinted to me that she wanted me to support Belgium, Farron into Belgium. And I'm like, none of this is computing for me.
You put Tanya in, and then you tell Farron, look, Tanya came to me and she told me that I had to put her in, is what you do.
So I thought about the following. The first thing I thought was, Munich to Holland, sorry, Ruhr to Holland, Denmark to North Sea, Kiel to Denmark.
No, no, no. You want to go to Skagerrak if you're going to do that opening.
I thought about that.
Yeah, I like that opening as Germany. I like Denmark to Skagerrak and then putting the army up, because then you got to play in the north, and maybe you can push Russia automatically right into Norway right off the bat.
So at this point, I was like, I just don't want to help Farron.
I probably would have done that. Actually, I think I probably would have done that Jutland move set and put it into Skagerrak and just worked it out with Russia. Say, look, I'm going to need your help, because I think Tanya's probably more likely to go with you if Farron's weak, right? And Russia's a little stronger.
Yeah, I should have picked Tanya, and I didn't. And what I ended up doing was splitting the baby with this sort of. I thought that England might be moving to bounce me out of Holland, so I went and supported myself into Holland, as you can see here.
Yeah,
and let them.
Well, I get it. I get it.
So I was like, and this now becomes, I think, a fake controversy in the game, because Tanya had told me in the fall that she was going to, pick up Portugal and Spain. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you building? I go, I assume you'll build Army Paris, Fleet Brest. And she's like, I'm thinking about Fleet Marseille, Army Paris. And I'm like, why? And she's like, I really don't want to attack Farron. And I'm like, all right, well, if you're going to build an Army Paris, I said, I'm going to build an Army Munich. And she's like, okay. And that was fine. Like, no problems. And so that's what I do. As we can see here from the builds, I build Army and I build a fleet. And now Tanya is mad at me. She goes, I'm looking here. I go, hey, it's not bad. Farron thinks she's on your side. We have a lot of play here. I'm pitching it to her, and she's like, I can't trust you. You built an Army Munich. And I'm like what? What are you talking about? Like, we just went over the builds. Like, I just said that. I said I was building an Army Munich to take your temperature on it, right? And you were like, okay. And she's like, no, we didn't have that conversation. I'm like, no, we did. Like, because it's like ever present in my mind, right? And so either she really didn't hear me say it, or she was manufacturing this as a way to, I'm like,
well, yeah, it doesn't matter anyway. Building Army Munich is not necessarily anti-French. So, I mean, right. Yeah, that's one of two things. Well, first of all, I don't think it's really that helpful. I mean, I suppose maybe you're trying to play it off to get you to do some other more optimal moves for her, but yeah, I don't.
So, anyways, so she's mad. England builds a fleet, and I'm just looking at the situation, and
she built it in Eddy too.
Yeah, she built it in Eddy. I mean, it couldn't be like worse for me at this point. And so, I go to Russia, and I'm like,
so, okay, well, let's talk about the East real quick. So Morganti did something like this before, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
What? So Russia, was this like he forced Russia to do it?
I think at this point it was part of their plan, as you'll see coming up.
What Russia says, you know what? I think I'm going to give you 2 extra builds because you really need it.
Yeah. I think this was part of their plan. I actually think it was an RT, but this has been hotly disputed even by the players, in the game. And I'm like, Craig, I let you into Sweden. I go, will you support me into Skagerrak? And he's like, he goes, yeah. He goes, what are you doing with your fleet? So I said, well, Skagerrak in Denmark. He goes, I just want to make sure you're not going to Baltic. And I go, I'm not going to Baltic. I said, I'm trying to make a play, on the North Sea, or, defend myself at some level. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Uh, and you know, it's not like I'm oblivious, okay? And we have that conversation, and then Farron goes in and talks to him for 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay, I wonder what was talked about. Like, I just told Craig what I wanted to do, and I'm almost 100% willing to bet that he just said what is gonna, you know, what they're gonna do. And I'm like,
Right.
If I'm Farron in that case, I move to Helgoland, and you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Skagerrak.
I don't know why Craig would want to make a deal with England at this point.
And so
I mean, he sees there's an EF. That's terrible for him. He can
right,
get the whole North if he works with you.
right. Farron comes into me and she's like, you lied, you lied. You told me you supported me into Belgium. And I'm like, I go, I said, I did lie. I go, and then I saw you talk to Tanya for 5 minutes. And I said, I basically got Tanya to confirm for me that you arranged that bounce so I would support you in and get position on me. And she goes dead silent, which was a total bluff on my part. And I knew I had it right.
Yeah.
And so she goes, okay, well, let's get past that, you know, but you know, you're a liar. And I'm like, oh, okay, I lied. Okay. You know, I go, that's what happens when I'm getting attacked by two people.
But the only thing I think you could say there, though, I think what you probably need to be hitting on is you need to be hitting on that someone's leaking info, you know, that they're not playing in the up and up. So, you know, more than just you guessing it and saying that, I mean, it's more like, you know, I would have supported you, but Tanya told me if I support you, then she'll never work with me. Like, that's the kind of stuff. And these type of things where you're like convinced that they're
that's a
like,
great idea.
yeah, when these kind of things happen, when you're so, you know, they're so locked in, which is what it's looking like, you know, they're not building in London, not building in Brest and all this stuff, that you've just like got to keep spinning stuff until somebody bites, I would say.
So I start looking and I start thinking of the map, and I'm like, if I'm Craig, I'm going to support Norway to Skagerrak because he doesn't want pressure on St. Petersburg. You know, that'll bounce my fleets, and she'll move into Helgoland. I go to Tanya and I'm like, take Belgium. She's like, well, I'm just going to, you know, move there, you know, or move around. I'm like, take it. You know, I'll get you in. You know, just have it. And so I come up with this little ditty.
Did you ever just ask her, why do you want to do an EF so bad?
She then told me, yeah, I was like, she goes, she really wants the Western Triple. So this was not obfuscation on Farron's part. In 02, she tells me she wants the Western Triple. And I'm like, not doing it. Kill me.
Yeah. Did she say why? Like why she wants a Western Triple?
I think she basically just kept saying she really liked Farron and she really liked me. She later on discloses that she doesn't believe me on the math and that I would need to stab her in board top. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you the truth. Like, do the math, you know, like.
Well, Sergey showed that you could get, you know, Sergey is got in by that.
And
by
so
the method you're describing.
And so did Nicola, right? Nicola didn't board top either game.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Nikolai was the one who got in. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So I was just like, I knew the math was right. And it was really frustrating when she later on told me that, you know, and I'm like, oh my God. So I feel like I'm pretty proud of my tactics here because I outguessed.
But even if you were wrong, that doesn't mean that her alliance with Farron is better than yours. I mean, Farron has 0, so she has to board top.
Right. That part is not in dispute. So I take Helgoland here. I set up my defenses for everything. I don't think Tanya will take a raw stab at Munich at this point. And I'm really just showing her, and I'm telling her, yeah.
This is terrible. In my opinion, this is terrible what Russia is doing. You see that there's an EF coming, and an EF is terrible for Russia. I mean, you don't want that. And he has an opportunity to be able to use your two dysfunction against each other to get something. And I think this is a really bad play on his part.
So I talked to Craig after this move, right? And I'm like, Craig, I made your point. I go, you have to get involved in the North. Like, you have to. Um, they're going to roll me, and you're helping them. And he's like, well, I don't want her to be a threat to St. Petersburg because I wasn't able to build there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, and you lied to me. You said you're moving to Skagerrak. I go, okay, two things. One, you said you were supporting me to Skagerrak. I go, second, I'm not dumb. I saw Farron go in and talk to you for 5 minutes, so I figured out exactly what you told her, and I put in a series of counter moves to counteract that. And he goes, okay, got it. Like, he didn't want to talk about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he basically.
Well, what Craig should say is, you know what? Good play. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why someone would say you lied to me when you correctly figured out everything that was going to happen. What you come to the person to say, hey, you know what? That was a good play. And then you just move on because you made the right move. Yeah. So how can you get mad at somebody for not doing what they told you when you are attacking them? That doesn't make sense.
I'm just like, I was so frustrated at this point. I have 3 powers against me, but I have hope for Tanya. And I'm like, I go back on the thing and I'm like, Tanya, take Belgium. I'm going to support you in.
Well, and she can go up behind Farron, too, at this point. She's
pointing out. I'm like, look, you're North Atlantic. It's okay. Oh, we'll just drop it there. Sorry to do that. You're North Atlantic. I mean, it's perfect. I go, what more do you want? She's like, well, that army's on there. And I'm like, oh, come on. I go, you can get the army to Clyde. I'm just sitting here going, this is like, I'm getting frustrated. I go, she goes, well, you can take Belgium. And I'm like, I don't want Belgium. I keep telling you that the whole time. She goes, well, then I'll move to Belgium. And I'm like, great, you'll have my support. I go, I doubt you'll even need it because I don't think Farron's moving there. But you will get my support into Belgium. You'll have it. You can see I'm fighting Farron now. Like, are you, and she's like, I really want the Western Triple. I'm like, stop. I'm not. I go, I want to work with you, but I'm not doing that. Okay. Not happening. And she's like,
well, all you have to do is say, I don't think Farron wants a Western Triple.
Right.
If she wants a Western Triple, if Farron wants a Western Triple, then she just goes to Barents and convoys over. Like, it's easy as pie. You get St. Petersburg. Oh my word. Come on, man. Craig, what are you doing?
So Craig now is, sort of all in. I mean, I figured this out too.
What's he getting out of this? What?
Really frustrating. I put Tanya in Belgium. She moves to Picardy. I mean, but this isn't like a good move for me, right? This isn't bad, but it's not. She still has army and
yeah, she's got armies everywhere. No, this is.
In hindsight, I should have moved Ruhr to Burgundy to bounce her, and still support her into Belgium.
Or you could have just taken it, In
hindsight, I probably should have just taken it, but
it wouldn't hurt. If you got someone that's not helping you, and you got someone who's attacking you, I mean, in these type of situations, like at least the way I kind of go to it, I just tell someone, look, this person's going to get all my centers and I'm going to be defending against you. So if that's the kind of, if you trust them to give you centers when they're the ones that get them all, then fine. I don't understand Craig's thing though, that like, in the game I played as Turkey, Tanya was England and Conrad was Russia, and England was getting ganged up on, and Russia, a smart play for Russia usually is to choose the weaker one, right? Or, especially if it's like FG against E or EF against G, you choose the person that's weaker to work with and just to slow them down. I don't think jumping in and helping England get this position is in any way in his benefit.
This is what I kept pitching.
Yeah.
And it's getting really sort of frustrating. Meanwhile, the winner is important because Tanya waves her build. I'm like, okay.
Like, is she afraid Italy's going to come towards her, or like she has no enemy?
Well, yeah, she just kept saying, I don't want to fight you and I don't want to fight Farron, and I really want to fight Andre because he knocked me out of the last game. And at this point, I'm like, go fight him. Okay. Like, if that's what it's going to take, but like, I'm not Western tripling, but that doesn't mean you can't fight Italy. Maybe I misread the situation. I'm not sure. Craig came to me before this series of moves here and was like, how can I help? And I'm like, are you serious? Now's when you're asking, how can you help? But I'm like, take Norway, do something. This is ridiculous. But he doesn't tell me these moves are happening. I guess he doesn't know. I had to support Denmark regardless. I covered Munich here. I was like, okay. I mean, it's kind of boring, but I'm in this pattern now as we sort of go through. And meanwhile, what does Craig get for all of his generosity here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we got Norway and St. Petersburg.
You should have told him, look, I played this way in my last game.
You're right. Yeah. And Tanya, now this is actually the most interesting thing. Notice how Tanya moved to Holland with Norse support.
Well, and if she wants Italy, then the move she makes here, she's getting, from her build, is she forces west and goes to North Africa and then makes your build in Lyon, or something like that.
So prior to this set of moves, Farron comes in and talks to me. Tanya comes in to talk to me, but really it's Farron who's talking to me. And she's like, she realizes she's getting nowhere, right? She's now spent 2 years and taken 0 dots off of me. She can't get Denmark. And she's like, let's disentangle. And I'm like, I'm all for it. I go, that doesn't mean I want Western tripling, but I'm all for disentangling. And she's like, I'll support you into Sweden. Okay. And I have we have Farron, we're talking, and I'm like, I'm not Western tripling. And they're like, fine. But I'll support you into Sweden and work out a set of moves. And,
maybe you should have said, yes, I'll do the Western triple, but I need to get Sweden first. And then I'll build and make my move. And then instead,
intimated that's what it would take, right?
And then,
I didn't,
right.
Yeah, I mean,
and then just move against Farron, right?
Right. Yeah, was never going to Western triple, but I did kind of, lay that out there. Like I said, I've been under relentless attack from you. I need to have Sweden. She's like, fine, I'll support you into Sweden. Norway will go to St. Petersburg. North will go to Norway, and they work out all these moves, and they tell me what to do. And then Tanya went to go talk to Andre or somebody, and Farron is like, what's Kiel doing? And I'm like, well, you guys just told me to move Kiel to Berlin. And she's like, Kiel needs to support Holland. She goes, Kiel needs to support Holland. And I'm like, thank you. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so this is why the attack fails. And then I tell Tanya that I got that information from Farron.
Right.
And it didn't phase her at all. She didn't care. I was like, I go, you told me to do this and I didn't do it. I go, I'm not even mad about the stab. And she's like, well, it was a weak stab. I didn't move to Ruhr. I'm like, I moved to Ruhr. I would have bounced you. Right. So, I mean, I'm sitting here and I couldn't even, and I go back to Farron and I'm like, okay, look, you took your dot off Russia. You have you have a chance here. She doesn't want to work. And so it's all over at this point. It's very clear that neither of them will work with me. Farron wants to essentially leverage me for a better relationship for an eventual stab against Tanya. And I'm just frustrated. Meanwhile, I see this move from Galicia to Bohemia.
What you should have said, why don't I just support you do that, but then I also support your army in Belgium. Get yourself a build. I'm talking about for Farron. Say, convoy your army to Belgium and I'll support it in. Be like, hey, look, if you're going to slow her down, why slow her down? Just take a dot and I've already got my armies ready. We'll go and build a fleet. And, because it sounds like she doesn't want Tanya to grow. So why not instead actually, you grow?
I didn't even think of that. I should have said that. That was a great idea. That's,
And, and you've
more
got all
about
the
giving
history
your
there too.
people options, right? More about
Yeah.
helping them with options.
And you've got all the history there because look, you should be in Belgium. She's in Belgium. She's not playing for you, and she's demanding Holland. Like I would say that's not an alliance. I said she should have wanted to support you into Holland. I go, this is just you're being played for a sucker. So how about you take Belgium and we actually do what matters and work together, have an
I don't
alliance.
think she thought of that either, because I would have supported her into Belgium, no problem, if she had suggested.
Well, and that's the thing. Most people to get out of these situations, like you got to be creative. And most people, here's what I found, even in high level play, there's a lot of people that are not good at communicating, even what they're feeling, right? To try to work stuff out. And you've almost got to do the thinking for them. And that's something I'm still getting better at, for sure. But yeah, and you're also in these deadlines too. Like I'm sitting here, I have no pressure on me and I'm pulling through, I can do ideas pretty easy.
No, but that's why I had plenty of time to think. Like people weren't really talking to me except for just really quick things. So yeah, I should have come up with that. And that's part of my game I'm going to endeavor to improve. Meanwhile, Tanya builds an army, which I think is totally unnecessary, but fine. So at this point, I'm just like enraged. And so I go to Jason Matzbaum in Austria and I break him and AI up, who have never not been in the same room together for 2 hours. And I'm like, I go, come to Germany. The weather is warm in Munich. I go, I'm sick of this. I go, they're not going to grow through me and you can grow through me. So come on in. And Andre's like, that is a fantastic idea.
If I get Munich, right?
Well, no, because he was playing the Russ Dennis role. He had already qualified in the first game, so he was just sort of like wanted to help Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Jason, come on in. He's like, okay, I will. And so and then I was like, I said that the price for this is, I'll put you into Ruhr in the fall. And he's like, okay. And so here I get AI to come, which normally as Germany never want to do, but like, what are my options at this point? Okay. I have 4 armies, an attack. I've got an English Navy. It's just like really frustrating on any number of levels. So I do this and they come into me now at EF. Like, it's not too late to turn this around. I'm like, now you want to talk? I go, now you come to me? I go, no, it doesn't work that way. I go, I've been very frustrated this entire game and y'all are the ones frustrating me. And I said, so you will not profit, you will not board top, and your tournament is going to be over. That's it. And Farron tried to come in and talk to me. And she's really calm. She's like a mom.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like really mad, like a 8-year-old.
I would say like a teacher, very measured, very, you almost can feel like you're in trouble, right? Like I remember that, like the principal's office. That's how the principal would talk to me.
He's trying to talk to me, and my emotional rage was high. And I everything I was saying was very emotional. And I'm usually almost never that way because I'm almost never in this position, right? You've gone over a lot of my games. Okay, my position is I should stab more, but I'm usually in the mid game, in every game. My tournament life is cratered for the most part. I've been inviting the East into the center of the board. France is in Ruhr. I'm sitting here going, oh my God. And she's talking to me and I'm like, Farron, I go, let me explain. What
was your reason for Berlin? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but what was the reason for Berlin?
Well, I knew I'd be disbanding something and I was trying to get Ruhr out to get Germany in. And so
Austria. Yeah, that was never going to happen.
So I was like, Farron's trying to talk to me, and I just like in a real moment of honesty just said, I don't know what to tell you, Farron. I'm not used to being in this position. I'm not handling it well. Like I'm angry and everything. It's all sinking in on me right now. What's happening, and I'm not making great decisions. I go, but I'm not my normal calm, jovial self, and I'm not used to being in this position. And she's like, okay. She goes, well, let's just talk next fall, right? Like almost like you just get it out of your system, son.
Yeah, right.
It'll be okay.
Go to your room. Go to your room. Count to 10.
I had to go in timeout, basically, because I couldn't handle it. But I did get Austria into Ruhr.
But of course, he comes in right behind him, Munich.
He right? Does. Yeah, he wasn't supposed to do that, but okay, fine. And I was mad about that, but not so mad. I was more happy about messing with him. Mm-hmm. It just felt like a good measure of satisfaction here that I was getting out of it.
Yeah, Tanya's missed her move. Like she missed her move here in the South, like building that extra army and then she took Marseille, so she can't. Of course, she wasn't expecting the disband, but building 4 armies, like she's not going. She's got to either stab Farron or I guess get something in Italy because she's not going to get really anything from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand her play here.
So at this point, Tanya's like, I told you I was moving away. I was still, like we have to reach an accommodation here. Like she's like, we have to reach an accommodation. I mean, I'll get you Munich back. We'll get these armies, I'll go after the, she's like, and finally they were in the Ed Sullivan position, right? I was there. And so I felt good about that. So I switch there. And we pop the army in Ruhr and everyone sort of moves away. And here we are in a belated Western triple with the idea that I would, get Munich back, which, here's what this happens. Meanwhile, this is really the end of my game. This move here by Austria. When Austria realized that Austria wasn't getting further, Austria just took Craig out.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Bulgaria.
Yeah, that's what he needed to do too. I mean, he's stabbing them for 3 centers.
It's a brutal stab.
Andre's not exactly playing the let me boost you up role too well. He's got Trieste, he's got Greece. That's not the Russ Dennis role.
Yeah. Well, so in any event, now I realize there really is no hope for me in any way, shape, or form because of Austria's armies, right? Like they're gonna be swarming, and
you're not gonna board top probably.
I'm not board topping. It is confirmed. So I just sort of just continue to, work it out a bit, try and slow down the growth. I'm working with EF a bit, sort of keep going. I get Munich back, but I
don't understand. Why didn't he take 7 there?
Why doesn't make any? Yeah, no, I don't even know, to be honest with you.
He thought Russia was going to maybe help.
It's a spring move. I assume he thought Black might support. Black had to cover Khan. I mean, it was a 50-50, right? I guess.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a spring move. This was a bad move, I think, on Jason's part. Because if he had done it before, he wouldn't have had this problem.
Yeah.
So he loses Moscow. But, Craig's basically out. And what kind of angered me about Craig a little bit is that, like, he wasn't even trying to be useful in this situation, to EF or whatever. He's just sort of like, I think he viewed himself at this point to be critical on the line, and therefore, he wasn't going to be out.
What's going on with Holland?
Farron basically said I'd really like Holland because I'm getting uneven here, and I couldn't defend it. I mean, I had nothing. I was like, okay, but that really
angered me. Norway. You could have taken Norway and said, well, I really wanted Norway. Then after it happens.
Yeah. So I didn't.
She moved to Sweden, so she covered it. But you could have done Baltic to Sweden.
Yeah, I could have outdone it, right? But
you got to build too.
Yeah. So I didn't. Guess a mistake. But that kind of really bothered me. And all my feelings now about EF bothered me. And it all came, starting to think, but I'm still sort of working here. See Jason on the line. But finally, I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm not going to win. And I'm not going to do anything to empower Tanya or Farron to win. They essentially ruined my game. And I like Jason. And, I stabbed him in the last game. And I insulted him. And I go, I'm going to try and make it up to him. So I joined Team AI at this point. And I know it's kind of a lost cause in many ways because there's a lot of defenses that can be made, but I just took my run at it here.
Well, Jason
got my build. And at this point, it's just sort of just a game on tactics. France is pulling back. I'm empowering Austria, which is what I wanted to do. Things are going fine. Austria is not going to attack me. Andre's convinced Austria not to attack, that our only hope is through me sort of in the long run. And, at this point, it just sort of continues on and on and on. This little game, but I have fewer units. So we just go back and forth and back and forth. But I get, slowly eroding here. I think at this point, Austria proposes a draw, and the position of Farron and Tanya is they will not draw until I'm eliminated.
Oh, come on.
That was the position.
I can understand what someone would be mad at you about. I mean, it's not like you really betrayed them. I mean,
yeah, but I also think they felt like they may have had growth opportunities, through me, maybe. And so we just keep going and going and going and going. And this was a bad season here. Obviously, I mean, there's only so much one can do to outguess somebody. Okay, that's just a fact. I build a fleet because I'm just like, I'm going to be as useful as I can to AI. Period. So I built the fleet. Definitely a mistake not here going to Baltic. That was covered on the DBN show. This is too little, too late. But it is what it is, and you can continue to watch as EF slowly grinds through the position.
This is why you kill Turkey. This is why you make sure you kill Turkey.
Correct.
You can't leave them at 1 or 2 and just think you're gonna just eliminate them. Make your
Morgante here by his moves ruined the game. The game I was playing, which was to hurt E and F. Because him being alive really broke down.
Did he make some kind of deal? I'll help you if you keep me in or something?
No, it was a total stab. And
why didn't they eliminate him when they could?
At that point, he convinced them, there was no need. But he kept sniping. He sniped 1, he sniped 2, then he sniped,
Are people not have we not played for a year yet to realize basic things like you don't leave people alive at one center?
Yeah. I actually think, look, as someone who has had more than their fair share of disputes with Morgante, I don't blame anything Morgante did.
No,
Andre was super mad at Morgante.
Morganti did what he should do.
Mastbaum is super mad at Morgante. Andre's like, I'm going to remember this for the future. This is not the way, it should be done. And you can't win. And what's going on? And Morgante's like, I don't owe anything to anybody.
Right.
I've been,
you don't get to whittle him down and then tell him that he can't fight for his home centers back.
It was a little bit like Conk in season 5 Nexus Finals, and it was just like, and Tanya's, I think this criticism is going overboard, and blah blah blah.
That's why you eliminate Morgante playing his way is not the problem. The problem was you didn't eliminate him when you should have.
So Morgante asked me what I thought, and I said, you didn't do anything wrong. I told him that. I go, don't, you know me well enough. If I thought you did something untoward, I would say it. You didn't do anything wrong. This is, in my mind, just the correct play by Morgante. So I harbor no ill will, and it's fine.
I don't know if I would do it. It all depends. I don't know if I would, if I was down in one center, I might make a deal and just say, okay, I'm going to keep with it. But it all depends, on the situation. And, Morgante had 0 going into this round. And so, his win conditions are probably, I want a respectable ending. It's not, I just want to survive. I want a respectable ending. And so they should have just eliminated him. That's, you get rid of your threats. Now, I don't know if I would have played it the way Morgante did. It kind of depends on how I was treated by Austria and Italy during their attacks. I
think Morgante and Mastbaum have a pretty good relationship. I mean, so, it is what it is. And there was an interesting debate, right? And just to bring it up, because you mentioned it a little bit, Morgante kept saying, I hate the current meta against Turkey. And, I want to show that Turkey can be a good country. And Andre goes, the reason there's a current meta against Turkey is precisely what you're doing here. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's why you have to kill Turkey. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen. And we went sort of back and forth on that. I actually thought both of them had good points in the argument. It was fun to listen to. But here we go. Fall 1915. I'm done. My first real elimination in the last 9 months of virtual face-to-face since I've been playing. So it's a sad time. We can put the toilet flush on my tournament life.
You only get that if you're on a top board.
Yeah, the game sort of continues. I don't know what Tanya and Farron worked out, but clearly Farron had the better of it. And
Tanya was probably pretty tired too. I mean, she got eliminated in the first game and didn't really ever have a chance to do anything. Like Andre and Dave allied against her in that first game. They were inseparable. She didn't. So now she's like
I want my revenge on Andre. I mean, that was what she was saying, apparently, is that she wanted her revenge on Andre. Fair, nobody should have had revenge thoughts on me, but they did. But fair, and she felt like she got satisfied.
Maybe that's really was why she wanted that Western triple that motivated her. Now, I don't think that would have been good for you doing a Western triple, Farron. The only way it'd be good is if you would be able to turn Farron south on Tanya, because Tanya definitely is not playing cutthroat in this game, and she's definitely got the ability to do so and has shown that many a times.
And here we go. Farron gets in with 110 points, which, by the way, was exactly what I said would get somebody in to the top board. And Tanya didn't. Because exactly what I said. It couldn't be both of them. I mean, you can hear the frustration, eclipsing. I'm just like, I'm sitting here going, and this is what I've replayed in, my mind over and over again, which is, I don't feel like I could have made better points to Tanya.
In the beginning.
In the beginning, I was proven right she's a better player than I am diplomatically and tactically. And it was frustrating to me to really be altruistic, which is rare for a diplomacy board, and still not get appreciated. And I like her, and I love her. I think she's great, but like I wish I could have changed her mind on this a bit. But I feel like I was proven right. So I suffer my elimination. I wind up in 15th out of 30, which I could have done better, certainly in game one. But when I tell you, I'm really proud of the way I played this game. I'm really proud of the way I played it. Even though I got eliminated, I feel like to make it 15 years from the situation I started with is a diplomatic achievement. And I was happy. My mistake was in game one, and it was hubris thinking I could exercise my diplomatic skills in game two to get a middling result and make it to the Super 7. But
well, I don't think it was hubris, because I mean, like, you've definitely shown the ability to be able, pretty consistently to put stuff together. I think it's just more of, nothing's set in stone except what you can get right now, right?
Yeah.
So get it while you can. I mean, I get the idea sometimes of, I don't want to be a target in round two, but at the same time, if you can qualify in round one, you get it, right? With so many people getting 0 points or very low points in the first 2 rounds, that if you can get to that 10 or 11, you were going to be set up pretty well. But yeah, this is kind of an interesting game, and I definitely agree. I remember early on in the when I was looking at this game, I was like, well, he's going to be out soon, and you were able to parlay that. But I think you're able to parlay that because it seems like a lot of people on this board were not like these weren't the just move, take somebody out and keep going, and optimally let's do this. It seemed like there was a lot more kind of wait and see players.
Well, and Tanya, I think, didn't want to eliminate me. I mean, I think eventually she got to that point, but they could have attacked me harder. Well, not Farron. Farron attacked me as hard as she could, but Tanya could have. And I think it's hopefully because of my, relationship.
I think her plan probably was, let me get the dots I need in Italy, and then I'll flip on who's ever there to grab.
Probably so.
And she saw Andre as her threat to her plan, and so she just focused in on that. But I don't know. It's kind of the same thing with what happened to you. You got to take what the board's giving you, and yeah, it's kind of a missed opportunity there for her. And she could have kept playing and beat Farron in this. If she attacks Farron, she's got units to grab at certain points in this, maybe even in this point, but you're going to have to keep playing for a long time. And I think it was pretty late at that point.
It was very late. It was nearly 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Although I was watching it. And you know what? The one couple takeaways from this game, and I know it's been long. One is I really respected Farron's play. I really was frustrated with her in the beginning, but I don't fault her for anything she did. I'm frustrated with my own play in terms of not being able to get Tanya on my side or Farron when it counted. Very disappointed for Jason Massbaum, the 29th seed who got to play twice. Not only did he sort of get screwed in game one through me, but this game two, he got screwed by Morgante. He was only a few points off the Super 7. I think I repaired my relationship a bit with Morgante, which I was happy to do. And I really came to know, I had not played with Andrei Gribakov very much, and I know you had a exciting game with him in the Super 7 finals. But, when you get to speak to hours with somebody and we weren't at odds, so you just kind of get to know somebody, I just think he's a straight up good dude, and I really enjoyed playing with him. Yeah,
I like Andre too a lot. He's one of my favorite players that I played with in virtual, and I enjoy just talking with him on a board, and so he's somebody that here's part of it too. Like when you ally with somebody, you want to ally
if you can, you want to ally with somebody that you enjoy talking to, right? And so, because you're going to be with this person for hours, and so Andre to me is one of those guys that his personality is pretty like I think he's going to make the right move, but he's pretty easy to just kind of talk with, and so I think he's got he's already won a tournament. He won Tempest, and he's only going to continue to do better.
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic player. The only person I can say is dead to me is Craig, which I don't even really mean. But surely Craig, you should have seen the English threat. Surely.
Well, he's a pretty experienced player, so
yeah,
it's interesting, what his thoughts were, because I think with the opportunity he had there, maybe Tanya was just really working him not to attack England.
It's possible.
Because him and Tanya, they've both been in face-to-face tournaments together. So maybe.
Oh, now you've got the conspiracy theory going.
No, I'm not conspiracy, but I mean, like, when you know someone and you know them pretty well, because like I'm pretty sure she's gone out to his tournament there in, oh man, my mind's going blank. I think Montana, Colorado, something like that.
SkyCon?
Yeah.
Is that his tournament or Brad Blitzstein's? I don't know.
No, that's Craig's.
Okay.
And so anyway, like when you've got that connection, sometimes, that can be pretty powerful. So I would probably guess maybe she was pressuring him not to attack England. But still, if he's wanting to make the top board, he's got to do that with what the board dynamic is.
Yeah. So first, sixth place in virtual face-to-face, first elimination. I think my worst placing the entire year was fourth, which, it is what it is. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Umble, thanks for talking to me about this. Thanks to diplomacybriefing.com. Thanks to the players. Congratulations to Andre and Farron for making the Super 7 off of this board. And congratulations to DBN for throwing such a great tournament that I will be lucky to make again, but it was a wonderful experience.
All right. Hey, and I'll just echo everything you're saying. It was an awesome game. I came up short with second on the final board, but had a great time, lots of stories, enjoyed playing all the players. So nothing but love for me for the tournament.
All right. Good night.